A lot of our structures can be department and divisional structures. It depends how big your organization is. If you have thousands, it could be one thing. If you have two, it's a different thing. It depends how you operate and what your goals are. Really, you want to sit down and have a chain of command. You want to have a mental model, some way to measure performance as you go through, and a way to sit down and help staff talk to each other through informal communication. In the simple structure with a few people, and you have one product or service, it's pretty straightforward as to what you're supposed to do. We do this. We clean out dryer vents, and there's 35 of us. We all clean them out exactly the same way. Get your brushes, get your rotor, get a head. You have the same way of doing it. We write computer code. That's a whole different thing, and your service is going to be totally different than the people that clean dryer vents. So it depends what it is. Really, the best structure, the simple structure, minimize the hierarchy, try to sit down and make it a flatter organization in the simple structure. Roles are broadly defined. One person can do a whole series of different things. Train them well. Have a centralized structure. And that it's not going to matter because it's a small organization and it's simple. And always have informal communication. At different things, it just depends what you're doing. This is a good functional structure. You have one chief executive, but you have a manufacturing branch, you have a design branch, administration, marketing, you have different things. They could become silos. It just depends what they want to do, but you want to have different aspects of it. Manufacturing is very different from design. The design people, they sit down and they put everything on paper, and they need to work hand in hand with manufacturing, because sometimes the design people, they create things that simply can't be built or built the way they designed them. So they may have to sit down and work closely with them. Marketing, they got to sell the product, but maybe you listen to the marketing people first because they're hearing what their customers want. So they talk to manufacturing. How come you can't do this? And so you have to have a lot of talk between them. It's functional, but in a simple structure, they have to have a lot of communication. Evaluating, the more centralized you get, you have economies of scale. In other words, instead of making 400 products, you make 10,000 products that are just alike, and you get a good rhythm. You can reduce costs by buying massive amounts of material for your assignment. So it depends, you'll have what we call economy of scale. It's easier to supervise because everybody's doing the same thing. The problem is it emphasizes skills more than the product or service, because you're trying to crank things out that look exactly the same. It just depends what you want to do. And a lot of times there's a poorer function. Here you have a picture of a divisional structure, and it depends what you're doing. On here, you may have people building stuff in North America, and you may have somebody similar to that building stuff over in Europe, and somebody similar to that building stuff in India, and somebody similar to that building stuff in Taiwan. It just depends on your geographic divisional structure, how you want to have that set up. Really, the cultures are very different. It depends who you're working with. You'll have different cultural aspects as to how you structure things on the inside. Here on this chart, you may have something totally different as to how the UK is running things versus the United States, because the cultural differences, or maybe the staffing issues, because the cultures are different and you want to get it done. So you do the things you have. So it could be very different. Sometimes you have a product division. You may have this one over here that makes this vascular group over here. You have something also in the medical field, but it really deals with diabetes, and over here, it just depends what you have. So you have different products or different services. Sometimes you have different clients. You may have a giant client and they buy 70% of your product. Well, I would make certain I would pay close attention to that client, because your livelihood depends on that client, and you want to have that person get special treatment. And much as you want to treat everybody well, you're going to treat that one a lot weller than other people in the process. If somebody's only buying 3%, you want to make certain that 70% person is happy as best they can. And the 3% person, you want them happy too, because they could become a 70%er someday. But in the meantime, make sure your revenue stream is protected. So it depends what you're doing. Divisional structure to benefit. It's a block structure. It helps accommodate growth, okay, and it focuses on the market, products, and clients. That is what it's all about. Limitations. Sometimes it's inefficient use of resources. Sometimes the UK people may not be running it as well as the United States people. You have silos of knowledge once again, and we already talked about the silos. The silos can be really damaging because you focus so much on just your area, you ignore all the other ones. So it's a big thing. So every type of structure has positive and negative traits. simple versus complex, a functional structure or divisional structure. You break it down by geography, by client or product, just depends what you have. There's a lot of different ways to structure things, but look for the department and divisional structure that is best for your organization. Take care.